Nilesh, thank you very much. Am I audible? Am I visible?
Yes.
Yes, sir, you're audible and visible both.
Namaskar. Good evening to everyone. Behalf of Indian Society for Veterinary Medicine, I, Dr. C.N. Galdar, welcome you all for today's webinar. Today, Dr. B. Nagarajan, sir, former head, Department of Veterinary Medicine, Tanuvas, and President, Association of Veterinary Dermatology, India, with us. Before initiating the webinar, I do request Dr. Ram Prabhu, sir, to give his introductory remark. Ram Prabhu, sir, please.
Good evening, one and all. So, at the outset, I welcome Dr. P. Nagarajan, an eminent dermatologist from Madras Veterinary College, for delivering his webinar on challenges in the management of non-pruritic alopecia in dogs. So, I know Dr. Nagarajan for the past 3 decades. So, he is a very sincere and one of the leading vet practitioners in Chennai. So, he is sharing his views and his experience to the participants of our webinar and the ISVM members. I am very happy to welcome Dr. P. Nagarajan for today's webinar. I welcome you, sir, on behalf of ISVM as well as on behalf of this webinar. I also welcome all the participants, senior members of ISVM, my dear friends Galdar, Nilesh, and a representative from Zydus, and the students of veterinary colleges to this webinar. I welcome one and all participants.
Thank you, sir. Before starting our webinar, I will take opportunity to welcome our speaker and introduce about Dr. Nagarajan, sir. Sir, I welcome you for today's webinar and thankful to you for accepting our invitation, sir. Thank you. Dr. B. Nagarajan is former head, Department of Medicine, Madras Veterinary College, Madras, Tanuvas. Sir has superannuated, just retired in month of June 2020. Sir is completed his BVSC, MUSC, pardon sir? Sir has completed his BVSC, MUSC, PhD and Diploma in Small Animal Ultrasound from Madras Veterinary College. Sir is presently acting as President of Association of Veterinary Dermatology, India. Sir has excellent teaching contribution where he has guided 10 MUSC and 3 PhD students in subject of veterinary medicine. Sir published 78 research paper and published 3 books. Sir is recipient of A.L. Murliar Award for the best MUSC student. Sir is recipient of 2 international awards and 7 national awards for research in veterinary medicine. Sir is expert in domestic and companion animal liver biopsy, bronchoscopy, and ultrasonography. Sir holds prestigious posting and position at national and international level. Important among them are ex-secretary, Asian Society of Veterinary Dermatology, member, European Veterinary Dermatology, president, Small Animal Practitioners Association, Tamil Nadu. So such a knowledgeable person is with us today to deliver webinar on our ISVM forum. I welcome sir to deliver his webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your warm welcome. I thank ISVM team for inviting me to have this webinar, dermatology webinar. Thanks one and all for everyone, those who are having a very good hard work to run this webinar series. I'm very much thankful to them, and we will go to the subject now. The challenges in the management of non-pruritic alopecia in dogs is the topic now. So here we should know that hair loss is a very common complaint by the owners who are bringing the dog to our Hello. So
Yes,
this,
sir.
see this because of this we have to see the allopathic patients with a very great challenge, because we have got a breed predisposition as a challenge, because we may not know which breed is affected with which disease and other things. So the patient data is so important, and the idea about the congenital and acquired is very much important. That from the history we can very well see whether it is from the birth or acquired, like that. The lack of awareness of the vets or owner by the disease itself, sometimes we may not know the follicular dysplasia or pattern alopecia, or it is a color dilution alopecia, like that. Sometimes the vets may not be having idea about the disease, and sometimes the owner themselves may not be knowing the disease, because it is so particular about that particular breed. Like Pomeranian is having a black skin disease, so this owner who is rearing the dog may not be aware of that. So these things has to be taken care. Then whether it is treatable or not, or can we try, that also we have to took it as a challenge. See whether it is treatable. Some diseases are treatable, some diseases we cannot treat it, so it will be there forever. Say for example, black skin disease in Pomeranian, we can try, but it is not fruitful. It won't give fruitful result for all the time. So we have to inform the owner that it is the sebaceous adenitis or follicular dysplasia. All these things will not have complete cure, like that we have to tell. Then we can try certain diseases. We can try like cutaneous lymphoma. We can try with certain drugs so that we can prolong the life, quality life for 30 months, something like that. So we have to see all these things, and we should have knowledge, thorough knowledge about it, and confirmation and correct prognosis has to be done, because many of us are not going for trichogram or biopsy in a routine practice. So the biopsy is the one which is going to give a lot of information about these congenital or any allopathic patients. So it is very important to step into this procedure, and we have to go for even a simple procedure. Trichogram we are not doing. That is a very important thing. So that is a so we have to necessarily check for the control and management also based on this result. So we have to necessarily go into the challenges with the breed predisposition, that is patient data, history, and physical examination, and also the confirmatory diagnosis. Everything will give an idea about the disease, and we can very well go about it. So alopecia causes, if you see, we have two broad categories. One is growth failure, hair growth failure. Another one is hair follicular damage. Hair growth failure, we can see all the cycling disorder like endocrine diseases, ectodermal dysplasia, hair cycle arrest. All these things comes under the growth failure. Whereas follicular damage, all the infection, inflammation, everything will be comes under the will always have in hair follicular damage. Even the follicular dysplasia or sebaceous adenitis, all are inflammation. So they got damaged. The hair is getting damaged there. So the infection, inflammation, and also the parasites, all these comes under the hair follicular damage. So here, the very important thing we have to see is, first we have to find out in any allopathic patient whether it is pruritic or not. That is very, very important. So the pruritus has to be checked. Whether how to check the pruritus, whether, because many times we may miss in the clinical practice. From the history, owner may tell something, it is going on scratching, licking the paw, rubbing the face, shaking the head. All these things are the history. So that can be taken into account. Sometimes they may not tell properly. So we have to check the animal to see the salivary staining. Saliva is getting stained. So the salivary staining is there in the front paw. Then broken hairs, you can see under the microscope. But here we have to check whether it is related to dermatophyte and follicular dysplasia also. There also you can see the broken hair. Then hair in the feces also very good idea to see that. Then Elizabethan collar responsive. The owner themselves will tell when you apply the Elizabeth collar, it is not scratching. After your application, it is not scratching. Once you remove it, it is having a scratching like that. They will tell. So we have to identify whether it is pruritus or not. And if it is going to have a pruritus, we can very well see this particular inflammatory, neurotic, or parasitic allergic causes are very much reasons for the pruritus. So this pruritus can occur. See, allergy will be there whenever there is a pruritus. Pruritus is not there means it is not an allergic disease. That is a very, you can easily exclude that. See, the allergic disease means there should be a pruritus. If the pruritus is not there, it is not an allergic disease. That is a very important point we can remember. And non-pruritic alopecia, we have to see whether it is a congenital or acquired, and symmetrical or asymmetrical. See, congenital or acquired from the birth, it is there means congenital. Later, we can say it is an acquired. So from the history, we can easily identify that. And we can examine the animal, see whether it has got a symmetry or asymmetry. Whatever it is, we have to, after the physical examination, we have to go for 5 important parameters like skin scraping, cytology, dermatophyte medium, and also the trichogram and skin biopsy. All these things should be applied for any symmetrical or asymmetrical alopecia. So alopecia means we have to apply all these things. Apart from that, in asymmetrical alopecia, we have to go for antibiotic trial. And in case of symmetrical alopecia, we have to go for that is endocrine assay. And also we have to seriously look into the breed predisposition of the particular symmetrical alopecia. So here, after going through the animal, we have to finally come to a conclusion whether they are going for a focal lesion or multifocal lesion or generalized lesion. Generalized may be symmetrical also. So we have to necessarily check whether it is a focal or multifocal. So focal and multifocal, it is auto-inflicted. That is, the hair is being pulled out by the dog or hair fell out by themselves. See, that is a very important clue we have to identify. The hair is pulled out by the dog means it is auto-inflicted. All the allergic disease, parasitic disease, and inflammatory diseases like neoplasm and other, all are having the chance of getting the self-mutilation. So the autoimmune disease, all are having a self-mutilation process. So the hair is being pulled out by the dog. So that is pruritus. So whereas here in non-pruritus, we can also have infections and inflammation. They may have a pruritus and later, initially may not have pruritus, later they may have pruritus. So that is the multifocal cases. Whereas in generalized symmetrical cases, you'll be having no pruritus at all. So here, the endocrine, the follicular dysplasia, miscellaneous T-cell lymphoma or plant alopecia, all these things are having a generalized symmetrical. The trichography is so important. The trichography we can do by hair abnormality. What we are doing trichography to identify hair abnormality itself, whether or not, because owner like a cat, they cannot show the scratching in front of the owner or anybody. So they will be doing in a private area. So we have to identify by way of taking a trichogram and see whether any broken hair is there or not. So the self-mutilation can be assessed and color dilution alopecia can be identified with the melanin clumps with the trichography, and dermatophytes. Dermatophytes with the spores, you can see the trichogram, you can see the spores in the dermatophyte, and demodex you can see in the root of the hair. And endocrine disorder, more of telogen you can see in the endocrine disorders. So the examination of the hair bulb is so important. So the hair, we have to identify the hair whether they are predominantly having an anagen or telogen. See, the anagen and telogen ratio is so important. How to recognize an anagen? Anagen is having a rounded, curled bend. You can see the slide here. Rounded, curved bend bent, often smooth pigmented root. It will be having a pigmentation. Whereas here, the telogen, they'll be having a spear-shaped lack of pigmentation, although base of the hair may show rough and brush-like edges. So that is the thing. So here you can easily remember that is TN, that is Tamil Nadu, and whereas here AP, that is Andhra Pradesh. AP, that is anagen pigmented. Pigmented means anagen, whereas non-pigmented is telogen. So TN means telogen with no pigmentation, whereas anagen means with pigmentation. So the AP and TN, we can easily remember that, so that we don't have any confusion. So here the very important thing is we have to see the ratio of the anagen and telogen, which is helpful in ascertaining certain cause of the diseases. So we have to see very important thing we have to take into account, that is the Nordic breeds like huskies. They are all having a telogen dominated hair cycles. So they have a telogen dominated hairs, whereas poodles, Bacon fish, all these things are anagen dominated hair cycles. So we have to take consideration before interpreting these things. Absence of anagen is always seen in case of endocrinopathy. So the endocrinopathy will be having telogens. So that is the thing we have to necessarily check into it. And non-pruritic focal alopecia, we can see many diseases. Most commonly, we are seeing bacterial infection, which can be easily tackled with the help of antiseptic shampoos or antibiotics. We can very well go for applying ointments and antiseptic lotions. We can use that and we can solve the problem. It is only local. Whereas in case of parasitic Demodex is the very important thing. We can very well see the local lesion, focal lesion in dogs with the Demodex. But even if you are going to take in this small area, you can see huge number of Demodex organism. So we have to go for treating the case with the fluorolenor or foxaloner so that we can cure the disease. So that is very important. And we have to have a certain time, we will be having a dermatophytes as an important presentation. Dermatophyte will be a single circular area in the nasal bridge, or it will be seen in the chin area. So this can be easily recognized with the help of trichography by seeing the spores, or we can go for Woods lamp. If it is going to be a Microsporum canis, we can very well identify with the apple green fluorescence. So that with a trichogram, we can see the spores like this. We can very well see the ectotrix. We can see that. And apart from that, we have got a post-injection alopecia. So the post-injection alopecia is quite common. Nowadays, we have got a lot of Shih Tzus and Maltese, Yorkshire Terrier. All these things are very commonly seen breeds in our country. So here we have to very much careful about the history. See, usually 2 to 8 month post-injection of rabies vaccine or methylprednisolone, depomedrol, if it is given for any reason, there is chance for getting alopecia like this in the injection site. So that also we have to remember, and that is mainly because of the antigen antibody deposits in the blood vessels, which is going to create a localized vasculitis, impaired blood supply to the hair follicle, and atrophy of the hair follicle and alopecia. So the treatment, here is tacrolimus topical application. We have sprays available in the market. Even we can go for pentoxifylline 20 mg per kg body weight every 8 hours. And another important disease is alopecia areata, but it is a very rare disease, non-pruritic, non-inflammatory disease, and it is very commonly seen in Dachshunds. And it can be a focal lesions or it can be a multifocal lesions, very commonly seen in head, neck, and trunk areas. It is mainly because of the immune-mediated damage occurs in the hair follicle. The anti-follicular autoantibodies and cytotoxic T lymphocytes are responsible for getting this damage. So here I had a case in my clinic. I have one dog came from Hyderabad, which has got alopecia areata. After doing the biopsy, we came to identify that it has got alopecia areata. So that in that we have got numerous dilated infundibular cysts, and there was no inflammation, and it is not having a scary alopecia. And generally, we used to have this kind of picture in any alopecia areata. See, you can see the swarm of bees-like appearance. So that is nothing but the lymphocytes and plasma cells surrounding the hair. So that is why it is looking like a swarm of bees, and cells surrounding the hair bulb will look like that. And treatment is cortisone. You can use hydrocortisone, acetonate. You can very well use that, or you can use toxapetate or tacrolimus. You can go for applying the thing. Here, the very important thing is, even if you are going to give treatment or anything, sometime it will have improvement. It may not be improving spontaneously, but it will have a spontaneous recovery all of a sudden. After a few months or after a year, it can go for a spontaneous recovery. So that is the thing we have to wait and see, but we can go for trying all these things and supportives. And apart from that, another important thing is traction alopecia. Traction alopecia also a localized alopecia, which is commonly seen in Shih Tzu breed, where we are giving more importance for the hair bows and rubber bands are being used in this breed. So that we have to necessarily see this particular lesions. We can very well have in this. So once it is going to occur, then there is no cure for this. So that is very, we have to have an idea about that. And also we have got in a tropical country like our India, we have got a lot of burns in our clinic. So the burns which has kept unknowingly, the people will be tying the dog in the upstairs, and they'll go and it will go for burn. So it may be a chemical burn or hot water burn or even a sun burn that can lead to lesions, and it can go for burn lesion, and we can treat it. After the treatment, sometime it may not be having improvement because it don't have the hair growth there. So that is the thing. Then puppy strangles, another disease called puppy strangle. So this puppy strangle is commonly seen immediately after vaccination in young puppies. It is an immune-mediated disease. Generally, it will look like a cellulitis in the mouth, the muscles, and all the lymph nodes will get swollen all over the body, and otitis externa will be there. Animal will be having a febrile condition, and it will have a limping. So all these things are related to puppy strangle, and we can very well treat it with the steroid. 1 to 2 mg per kg body weight. Oral prednisolone can be given continuously to improve the condition. The antibiotics will not help. So we can very well go for treating it and having correction of this. And this puppy strangle, but after healing in the later days, they may have alopecia, which are not having hair growth. So that is also focally seen in our practice. Post-clipping alopecia, it is also commonly seen in importantly in certain breeds, like this thing, plush-coated breeds, Chow Chow, Siberian Husky. Hairs may not regrow 1 to 2 years after clipping. Sometimes it will regrow automatically. So the
sound problem
and history and rule out the other causes. Melatonin is sometime we can try, but we cannot give guarantee by giving melatonin it will improve or not. So the non-pruritic multifocal alopecia. Next one is non-pruritic multifocal alopecia. We have seen the focal alopecia. Non-pruritic multifocal alopecia, we have got a list like this: alopecia, congenital alopecia, dermatomyositis, and dermatopytosis, demodicosis, endocrinopathies, follicular dysplasia, and lymphoma, pemphigus, sebaceous adenitis, staphylococcal folliculitis. These group of diseases can be symmetrical also. See, even if it is going to be a multifocal, it can be symmetrical also. Multifocal patchy alopecia in staphylococcal folliculitis will look like this. It's very commonly seen presentation in our clinic everywhere, all over India you will be seeing. And apart from that, dermatopytosis also we have to look into it, because many times we will be missing this. We'll be thinking that it is a pyoderma, but it won't improve with the antibiotics. So once you are going to use the trichography, you can see the spores, or even if you are going to use the ultraviolet rays, that is a Woods lamp, you can very well see the apple green fluorescence all over the area where it is having the fungal lesions. So that is very, very important clue we have to identify with the multifocal alopecia. And apart from that, multifocal alopecia also seen in parasitic infestation, particularly the hair follicle is being affected with the demodicosis, wherein you can see the multifocal alopecia that can be treated. effectively. And canine familial dermatomyositis, that is also a very important thing, which is very commonly seen in collie breeds, and also we can see in other breeds also, but collie breeds which is so commonly seen. And here the thing is, you can see the erythema, alopecia, even the crust you can see. Here the very important thing is, we can have in our country, we have got lot of gradients with the myositis. So here the myositis is so commonly seen in the carpal and the dorsal areas where the friction area. So that is nothing but immune mediated myositis. And apart from that, you might have seen in the same gradient, you'll be seeing a lot of vasculitis problem. That is, the ear tip will be having bleeding all the time, shaking, it will aggravate. So the trauma and sun exposure will aggravate the condition. So it is very, very important to safeguard that by keeping the Elizabeth collar, or you have to avoid sun exposure, avoid self mutilation. All those things has to be tried to control that, because it will be readily seen in 6 months, but it will be very much dominance. The aggravation of the disease will be there in at the age of 1 year. By doing histopathology, we can confirm the disease, which will be having hydropic degeneration in the epidermis and hair follicle. And also you can see the muscle necrosis, fiber necrosis can be seen, and muscular atrophy can be seen in the histopathology. That is very commonly seen. And also sometimes you'll be seeing in the nails also getting affected. This dermatomyositis, not only the vasculitis, sometimes nails also getting affected, that also inflamed. And that is a very important thing. So those things can be very well managed with the help of tetracycline and niacinamide, or vitamin E, or even the pentoxifylline, which is very commonly used anti-inflammatory, which is very good anti-inflammatory, particularly for this type of immune-mediated myositis. See, actually 20 mg per kg body weight every 8 hours we have to use. And you have to, as I told you, we have to avoid trauma and avoid exposing to the sunlight. And also corticosteroid 1 to 2 mg per day you can use. And if it is going to have any secondary infection, particularly in gradients, you will be having a callus formation, or it will be having an infected wound in the myositis. So it will be having a limping and other things. So that we have to go for treating with the antibiotics. And neutering also help, that is quoted by some authors. So next is sebaceous adenitis. Sebaceous adenitis, once you are going to see a follicular cast like this on the animal body, or if you are going to see a yellow color deposition in the base of the hair follicle, or even it may be a black color or white color or yellow color follicular cast which are being deposited in the animal, which is adherent to the skin, or which is at the base of the hair follicle, you can very well say it is a sebaceous adenitis. So we have to suspect this by seeing this. So most often primary disease, it is a primary idiopathic disease, but sometimes we can expect to have it as a secondary also in case of Demodex and food allergy, very commonly seen in our area. And in etiology, primary sebaceous adenitis, generally it is a genetically inherited disease. That's why it is not having a cure. Even though we can have a control over the disease, we can give a quality life, but we cannot completely cure the disease. That's why veterinarians should have an idea about the disease, and you have to inform the owner it is not curable, but we can easily maintain it. That is very, very important. So the sebaceous gland is getting affected because of the developmental defect, because of the destruction of the sebaceous gland. And apart from that, lipid metabolism affects the keratinization and sebum production. That's why we are adding all the lipid particles, lipid substances, either in the form of spartan like Alladom or Essential 6, or in case of oral Betabesdom, or even your gold coat or Alpha gold coat has been used for controlling the severity of the symptoms. So the keratinization defect obstructs the sebaceous ducts. Mediated or autoimmune, it can be, the disease can be immune mediated or autoimmune. It is very commonly seen in our country with the Spitz. Perhaps it has been recorded in standard poodles, Akitas, and also in sheepdogs and Slas. So all these English Springer Spaniels, these breeds are very common. Even in mixed breed, it can happen, sebaceous adenitis. Non-pruritic alopecia is very commonly seen as a patchy alopecia. Particularly in long coat dogs, it can be presented as a symmetrical alopecia and scaling, dry coat on the dorsum, nose and tail area. and pinna trunk also. Later, follicular cast and matting will be seen. And in short coats, moth-eaten alopecia can be seen as a secondary pyoderma. So we have to necessarily check the clinical sign with the excess scaling, follicular cast, adherent scales. That is very, very prominent feature, adherent scales in the attached to the skin or the base of the hair. And alopecia or poor hair coat, hairs may be brittle and dull. White coated dogs, they may have a brown to red matted hair. Ears, head, and trunk are being affected. Annular to coalescing areas of moth-eaten alopecia can be very well appreciated. And otitis externa also can be seen in these dogs. Once you are going to see a trichogram, you can very well appreciate this follicular cast. The presence of follicular cast, accumulation of keratosebaceous material around the hair shaft, you can see like this. And the follicular cornification disorder can be confirmed by seeing this, so that we can say it is a sebaceous adenitis. Once you in the physically, if you are going to examine the animal, you can, as I told you, the white or black adherent material, that is nothing but a follicular cast which is adherent to the base of the root, that is the follicle, hair follicle is seen. That is a very classical symptom in case of sebaceous adenitis. And in some breeds, you can very well see this silver white follicular cast. You can see like this in the ear pinna area. And in some breeds, you can see the bilateral symmetrical alopecia in the nasal bridge in the nose, you can see. And in some breeds, you can see the bilaterally symmetrical alopecia along the dorsum, you can see as a sebaceous adenitis. And in certain cases, you can see the annular coalescing areas of alopecia affecting the trunk and extremities. You can see the annular pattern of the coalescing areas of the alopecia in this case. So the sebaceous adenitis has to be differentiated with the Demodex by way of skin scraping, and we have to differentiate with the dermatopytosis with the help of spores by trichography, bacterial folliculitis with the cytology, and vitamin A and zinc responsive dermatosis by treating it, and ichthyosis. And we can have endocrinopathy and pemphigus foliaceus by acantholytis cells, you can see, so that we can differentiate these with the sebaceous adenitis. Suspected based on the clinical signs, breed, and history, and definitive diagnosis has to be done with the chronicity of the lesions, particularly with the histopathology. See, in acute lesion, it will be having inflammation of the sebaceous gland. If it is going to be a chronic, you can have an absence of sebaceous gland or focal perifollicular fibrosis of the sebaceous gland. You can see the absence, or you can see the pyogranulomatous inflammation in the sebaceous adenitis. So inflammation around the sebaceous gland, you can see in the histopathology. The treatment for sebaceous adenitis in these cases, we have to necessarily check with the topical therapy with the keratolytic substances or keratoplastic agents, emollients, hemactans has to be used. And importantly, we have to go for omega-6, omega-3 fatty acids. And apart from that, cyclosporin is being used successfully with a dose rate of 5 mg per kg body weight. Ichmune C is available in the market. You can use that. Cyclosporin 5 mg per kg body weight. And retinoids, isotretinoin has to be used at the dose rate of 1 to 2 mg per kg body weight. You can use. And we have to remember that it is not going to respond with the steroids, unlike other immune-mediated diseases. So it is very, very important. And another important diseases in patchy alopecia is congenital hypotrichosis. As the name itself, it's suggesting the congenital disease. From birth itself, you can see the patchy alopecia in the breed. And the hypotrichosis means low formation of the hair. So the low growth of hair, multifocal forms due to ectodermal defect. So any ectodermal defect can be easily identified with the epithelial appendages will not be there, and it may have a dentition defect, or even it may have a dry eyes like keratosebaceous sicca. So like that it will go in future. So the decreased production of a lacrimal fluid and dentition defect also will be there along with the ectodermal defect in these cases. You can very well see that. And autosomal recessive or X-linked recessive gene is responsible for this. Agenesis of the hair follicle in the affected areas can be seen. Protection from the UV light damage is needed in these cases. And another important thing is pemphigus foliaceus, which is coming across by many of us. And it is also going to have a patchy alopecia. Lesions may be multifocal or generalized, diagnosed with the cytology and skin biopsy. See, it can be having a pustular or erythema or crusty appearance all over the body. You can see very awkward appearance of the dog, and you can very well see the cytology that will give a great clue about the disease. That is nothing but acantholytic cells. You can see very well, you can see the acantholytic cell, bigger nucleus, and the acantholytes, you can see that with no cocci, but it is having full of neutrophils. And also with the histopathology, you can see the abscess and other thing, and even the acanthocytes you can see in the histopathology. And the causes are ultraviolet B rays are very much responsible for it. And one another important thing we have to remember is pemphigus foliaceus means we have to check with the history of using any drug induced, because drug induced like cimetidine, cephalexin, amoxicillin, or even ampicillin, cloxacillin, clavulanic acid, and trimethoprim sulfa combination, or even the ciprofloxacin can lead to this kind of pemphigus foliaceus. So it can be a drug induced or drug triggered. If you're going to give, already it will be having the pemphigus, and if it is going to have if you're going to give the drug, it will trigger the disease. So more than 7 days after the first administration, it will take to have a symptom. Whereas if it is already exposed, the drug is already being used by the dog, then the reactions will be very immediate. Within 24 hours, you can expect to have the symptoms. So when it is getting re-exposed, when it is already having, it will take 7 days to appear the symptom. Whereas if it is already exposed, the drugs are already exposed, it will immediately within 24 hours you can expect to have the disease or symptom. And a topical spot-on preparation, sometimes metamflumizole and amitraz, which is not available in India. If it is going to be there, the people have reported they are getting pemphigus foliaceus while using this spot-on for ticks and fleas. And dog nutrition like thiol containing fluids, foods like garlic and onions, when it is being used, there is chance for getting this pemphigus foliaceus. So we have to take into account, and you have to rule out all these things from the history. And also the chronic skin disease, any chronic skin disease such as allergies, also or like atopy, all these things can also lead to pemphigus foliaceus. So that also we have to remember. So we have to necessarily check the lesions. Lesions initially appears on the face, dorsal muscle planum of the nasal and periocular skin lesions. And ear also you can see, particularly in ear, the concave portion of the ear is getting affected. That is a classical thing for this pemphigus foliaceus. Concave area getting affected. Concave area getting lesion is very difficult in many diseases. So the classical thing example is pemphigus foliaceus. And also you can see clumps of hair starting from the pustules. That is also a very important clue you can see. Then the regionalized or generalized over a month it can happen. Then it can go for even generalized distribution. It can happen in certain breeds. And it can be localized in certain breeds like Labrador, it will be localized. And you can see widespread erythema and exfoliation, particularly in the face, you can see in many breeds, even in crossbreed, we have reported. And the clinical history is so important. Physical examination is so important. We have to see the acantholytic cells and keratinocytes and absence of bacteria in the cytology. And the superficial pustular drug reactions and dermatophytosis also give the same cytology report. So we have to necessarily rule out these with the help of that is Wood's lamp, or even by avoiding the drugs. And we can go for histopathology to confirm the disease. Particularly the confirmation can be done with the IgG, particularly with the direct immunofluorescence with the skin biopsy samples. And histopathology will be giving acantholytic keratinocytes. You can very well see in the histopathology. The treatment comes with the prednisolone, 2 to 4 mg per kg per day has to be given. 2 mg per kg is sufficient for dog. And azothioprine is Imuron, is being used very commonly to control this, or even the cyclosporin. We have seen some success with the cyclosporin 5 mg per kg body weight. And tacrolimus also helpful to some extent to maintain the to clear the symptoms, or the hydrocortisone acetonate cortisone spray also can be used, and tetracycline niacinamide, that is also being used, very useful medication in treating these cases. Less than 10 kg means 250 mg can be given. More than 10 kg means total dose 500 mg can be given to treat the condition. Then the patchy alopecia, cutaneous T-cell lymphoma, that is also commonly seen, very rarely seen, even though we are seeing in few cases. So that has to be seen with the patchy alopecia, but it will be having a raised lesions, like it may be a patchy initially, then it will go for raised lesion, then it will become a nodular. So multiple nodular appearance will be seen in a cutaneous T-cell. Once you are going to see the cytology, you can appreciate the mitotic lymphoma. You can very well see that. Latest report, 2018, the Lee workers, they have identified the isotretinoin, and that is the retinoid at the dose rate of 2 mg per kg body weight once daily, and the interferon at the dose rate of 1 mg for 10 to the power of 6 square feet, 6 square meter area, IU per meter square, that is being used subcutaneously. When you are going to combine these two, that is retinoid and interferon, it is giving a very beautiful result, that is 30 months improvement. The animal can live up to 30 months. See, otherwise, initially they have been using the other cancerous drug that is being used, that is thing that is helpful only for 3 months to 6 months. Whereas here, this has to be used for 3 months, but they will be having a wonderful effect up to 30 months. Animal will not have a problem, and there is no side effect. And here we can very well see in the clinically, you can see the exfoliative erythroderma, you can see as a classical picture, and also the erythema or even the ulcerated depigmented area of the skin, you can see in these lymphoma cases. Then coming to non-pruritic symmetrical alopecia, we have got a list of drugs, list of diseases, endocrine alopecia, hereditary alopecia, and infectious alopecia, and miscellaneous like deflections, telogen and anagen deflections. So these also have generalized diffuse cases of alopecia in certain diseases. So here, coming to endocrine alopecia, hypothyroidism, hyperadrenocortism, sex hormone, and dwarfism are the very commonest thing what we are seeing in our practice. Particularly among these, we have a very common thing in the hypothyroidism and hyperadrenocortism. So hypothyroidism, if you see, the lymphocytic thyroiditis is the 95% of the cases are mainly because of immune mediated, and it is a commonest disorder. And you can see the idiopathic thyroid atrophy also. Many breed predispositions are there, like Irish Setter, Cocker Spaniel, Golden Retrievers or Labrador Retrievers are very much prone for, even the Great Danes are very much prone for this particular hypothyroidism. So you have to necessarily check. Even sometime it will go for iatrogenic also by using sulfa, antibiotics and other drugs, surgery. Certain cases will have the hypothyroidism. And endocrine alopecia in hypothyroidism, we can see a commonest clinical sign predominantly of 80% of skin symptoms. So the dermatological symptoms are 80%. Particularly thin, dry coat, dull hair coat, 60% of the cases. Alopecia will be there, most commonly flank alopecia. It also can be seen in the nasal bridge. Hyperpigmentation and alopecia in the nasal bridge also commonly seen in certain Labradors has been reported. Even I myself have been seen in many cases with the nasal alopecia, not only nasal, neck, and also the flank region. Flank is the very commonest thing we can see in hypothyroid, and scaling also very commonly seen even in young dog. You can very well see scaling frequently, in spite of treating with the anti-scaling agents, it won't have improvement. then only we can have a suspicion, particularly in the breed specific. Because if you are going to have, I had a case of Irish Setter, which was having scaling often, but it was not having any alopecia. Milder form of alopecia was there, so it was not recognized. But scaling was so oftenly seen, so we have tried so many Celidref and other thing, but it was not showing improvement with that. So the selenium thing are not helping, or even other forms of anti-scaling agents are not helping. Then we thought of going for identifying the thyroid, and we found that it was very much responding for the thyroid supplementation, and still it is with the thyroid. So the hyperpigmentation, hyperkeratosis, and failure of hair growth after clipping. This is also very important. Failure of hair growth after clipping can be seen in the clipping alopecia, and also the hyperadrenocortisone, and even in case of alopecia X. So here also it is very classically seen, failure of hair regrowth after clipping. So the secondary infections also common. If it is going to be a pyoderma or malassezia, very rarely you can see malassezia also. And obesity, lethargy, heat seeking, the cold intolerance you can see in these dogs, and sometimes myxedema, tragic look, bradycardia. These things you can see by auscultation or ECG, and ocular and otic and reproductive disorder like not coming to heat. All those things are very much noticed, but it is a very this is comparatively rare, and facial nerve paralysis is very much rare in our practice. Diagnosis can be done with the total T4, which is very much available with our human counterpart. Total T4, all others are not useful in human. So if at all you have any Fuji lab or anything, you can go in for TSH, which is veterinary specific. Otherwise, we have to depend on the clinical sign. The clinical sign and the therapeutic trial, we will give a very important clue. The treatment can be very much given with the Eltroxin, that is levothyroxine supplementation, total T4, T4 supplementation. The monitor the therapeutic levels also so important, because very rarely we will be having the hyperthyroidism. So we can very well go for treating it with the 22 microgram per kg body weight. If it is going to be severe, we can go for BID. Later we can go for, if it is monitoring is going to be higher side of level, then we can cut down to single use. Then coming to hyperadrenocortisone, predisposed breeds are Dachshund, Boxers, Boston Terriers, Poodles. And causes, we can have it as a pituitary dependent, or it may be adrenal dependent or iatrogenic. Very commonly in our practice, we are seeing iatrogenic also. But in our practice, we used to have the pituitary is the predominantly seen. More than 60% of the cases of hyperadrenocortisone are with the pituitary dependent. It may be due to pituitary hyperplasia, or it may be due to pituitary tumor. All those things has to be identified with the help of CT scan only. But with the classical clinical sign, we can have a guess. Iatrogenic with the history, we can easily identify that. Adrenal tumor, we can very well appreciate with the ultrasound. Even all others also, we can have a guess with the ultrasound. Diagnosis mainly with the history, physical examination, blood work, urine analysis, abdominal ultrasound, MRI and CT scan, pituitary and adrenaline will help a lot to identify the disease. So here, this is the iatrogenic Cushing, which has come to my clinic, and which has been treated with the Kiskin lotion for, without my knowledge. They have been applying since it had a problem. It was responding initially with the Kiskin. It is having a steroid. So when whatever form of steroid, they will be thinking only oral tablet and injection will go for hyperadrenocortisone or Cushing. But not so. Even any application, external application of ointment form with the steroid also can lead to Cushing like this. So it is very much, you can see the thinning of the skin, prominent of the blood vessels, and also the alopecia. You can see the symmetrical alopecia in this case. We can very well appreciate it. And these are all the classical picture. You can see a dermatological symptom of hyperadrenocortisone. The comedones, this is the black spots, that is called the comedones, and prominence of the vessels, abdominal vessels, and this is called calcinosis cutis. This is also a classical thing. You can see it in case of hyperadrenocortisone. So thinning of the skin, you can very well appreciate pendulous abdomen, obesity of the dog. All these things you can see in case of hyperadenocortism. So as I told you, apart from that, very common symptoms you can see as polydipsia, polyuria, polyphagia, panting, abdominal distension. You can very well see in clinical presentation. Even the hepatomegaly you can see, and even sometime you will be having a systemic hypertension. Sometime we will be having a hyperpigmentation of comedone, thin skin, everything, and we have to see other confirmation immediately. Once you are going to see the clinical picture like that, we can very well go for suspecting the case and go for taking the urine sample to see the cortisol and creatinine ratio, because that is the one which is going to give, if it is going to have an elevation of this cortisol creatinine ratio, then immediately we can have an idea it may have a hyperadrenocortism. If it is not going to have an increased level of this, then we can rule out this hyperadrenocortism, exclude the hyperadrenocortism. It is a very much useful as a screening test. Once it is going to have increased level, we have to think about going for other tests, like even in the urine analysis, you can see the low urine specific gravity because of more urine. And if it is going to be positive for urinary cortisol creatinine ratio, then if it is if you are going to take a hematology, you can see the stress leukogram. And if it is going to be a biochemistry, you can see the elevation of the ALP, particularly the alkaline phosphatase is very much increased, not only in case of cholangiohepatitis or hepatitis, or even in the intestinal involvement or the bony involvement. Very commonly you can see in case of hyperadrenocortism, alkaline phosphatase elevation. So you have to check with the clinical signs. So the clinical sign has to be checked. And apart from that, adrenal function test is a very important test. We can very well confirm it. And low dose dexamethasone test can be used, and all those things you can interpret with the various things. And ultrasonography also will be helpful in identifying the different type of causes. Pituitary dependent depending hyperadrenocortism can be seen as a bilateral adrenal enlargement. And if it is going to be adrenal tumor, then it will be having, majority of the cases will be having unilateral enlargement. Contralateral atrophy of the adrenal gland will be there. And in case of iatrogenic, you can see the atrophy of the glands in both areas. So we can very well see the gland, adrenal gland, in between the cranial part of the kidney and between the caudal vena cava or aorta. In between the kidney and these veins, you can have a left and right adrenal gland we can have. And if it is going to have more than 4 centimeter, most commonly it is a malignancy. So that is very commonly seen. You can see very easily in ultrasound and have an idea about the disease. And next one is endocrine alopecia. It is a sex hormone imbalance. It is due to hyperestrogenism, very commonly in female because of the ovarian cyst and Sertoli cell tumor in case of male. So we can very well see even in ovarian tumor also. So we have to necessarily check all these things, the ultrasound, and identify whether it is having a ovarian cyst or Sertoli cell tumor. With the abdominal ultrasound, we can very well see the huge enlargement of the, because most commonly it is seen in the cryptorchid. You can see the huge testicle with the Sertoli cell tumor. And symmetrical alopecia is a very classical thing. You can see the prominence of the variable pigmentation. It can go for hyperpigmentation or seborrhea. And feminization, it can be seen attraction to other males, whereas in females attracting the other females also there. So the homosexuality will be there. Enlarged nipples and vulva in case of male is seen. In the male is a pendulous penis and also pendulous prefuse, or pendulous prefuse and linear prefusial erythema, or it can even have a hyperpigmentation which is linear to the prefuse. So this is the linear prepucial erythema or hyperpigmentation, very commonly seen in this sex hormone alopecia. So the prostatic dysfunction also commonly seen in this. So we have to necessarily check with the estrogen level and see the condition, cryptorchid, and you can see the hyperpigmentation, you can see the hair loss, symmetrical hair loss, all those things you can see. and ultrasonography will give an idea. Treatment is neutering, that will give a very great improvement. The response is very good after neutering with the sex hormone. And endocrine alopecia, next one is pituitary dwarfism. The pituitary dwarfism, we can see here the German shepherds are very commonly affected. Autosomal recessive gene persistent cyst in the case of brain, which will compress the pituitary gland, which will decrease the growth hormones and TSH, which may again decrease the FSH and LHS, ACTH, and leading to this type of dwarfism. So the dwarfism can lead to endocrine alopecia. Particularly in the dwarf animal, you can see the retained puppy coat in this case, and also you can see the alopecia in the ventral neck and the ventral abdominal area. You can very well see the secondary infection also in some cases. You have to diagnose with the history and examination, and radiograph shows persistent growth plate. That is also a very important clue in dwarfism. And secondary, and even the CT scan and MRI will give the pituitary cyst, and a pituitary function test also will be helpful in identifying the disease. Treating the secondary infection, thyroid supplementation if concurrent thyroid hypothyroidism. But there no way it will have improvement with the treatment. That is the dwarfism, but you can very well tell the owner about the prognosis. Then another important alopecia is color mutant alopecia. Color mutant alopecia or color dilution alopecia, very commonly seen in Dobermans. You might have seen a lot of Rottweilers, Dobermans. It is Doberman, Dachshund, Whippets, Poodles, Great Danes, Chow Chow, Irish Setters, all are having a very great color dilution alopecia in the population. So here, how to recognize it? Melanin clumping in the hair bulbs. If you are going to take a trichogram, you can see the macromelanomes. These are all called macromelanomes. So melanin clumping will be seen in the trichogram. You can see that easily brittle in the thing. This is the color dilution alopecia. You can see in a Doberman, and you can melanin clumps in the trichography. That is also important clue. And structural defects, color dilution alopecia, or even in the black hair follicular dysplasia, another disease called black hair follicular dysplasia. In those conditions, you can very well see the follicular dysplasia in various forms, like there is a malformation, there will be bending, or even there will be a shaft narrowing, or even here you can see the bulging, or even the notching, or even the breakage of the shaft, or even the bulb. You can see the malformation. Even the histopathology, you can see the orthokeratotic hyperkeratosis as a classical thing in the follicular dysplasia. But one important thing you have to remember is Weimaraner, which may not be having the issue, but because even in a normal Weimaraner breed, if you are going to take a hair sample and see under microscope, they may have a melanin clumps. So this is an exception in this melanin clump. So the melanin clump has to be interpreted very cautiously in Weimaraner. Weimaraner breed, the melanin clump is very normal. So that is very, very important. Then the black hair follicular dysplasia, which is seen only in the black area, black coat area, where you can see the very black area. You can see the loss of hair in this area. Hair loss and scaling only affected black area region. Other hair will be normal. But skin biopsy show how follicular dysplasia with the clumping of melanin and in the hair bulb and shaft. And follicular dysplasia, not only in black hair follicular dysplasia, generally follicular dysplasia will be seen like this. The top line, that is the top portion, the caudal portion, and the other both areas will be having the alopecia. That is very commonly seen in the curly coat retrievers, Doberman and Irish Water Spaniel breeds, you can see. And this is a case in curly coated retriever breed. You can see the dorsum which is being affected. And canine recurrent flank alopecia, that is also very commonly seen. It is a recurrent truncal hair loss. Photoperiod playing an important role. The photoperiod is very, very important to form this disease. And genetical deficiency of melatonin is suspected. Melatonin influences the production of other hormones involved in the growth, hair growth. prolactin, androgen, estrogen, growth hormone. The very important breed here is boxer. More than 80% of the boxers are having occurrence of this disease. So the very pity is the breeders may not know aware of this disease because it may not be visible in the puppies. Only after 4 years it will happen. So the 4 year up to 4 years they may be normal in for seeing normal appearance. Whereas after 4 years they develop and it won't go away. So it is very, very important. It is very difficult to cure. You can tell the owner by taking the histopathology, we can see. And marked follicular hyperkeratosis, particularly here, the witch's feet, because the clumping of the keratin substance will lead to accumulation of the secondary and primary and secondary hair. They will hair follicle. There will be formation of more keratin substances in the sebaceous gland, and they will produce appearance of witch's feet or even the octopus feet, like appearance of hair follicles. So that is the classical thing we can see in case of recurrent flank alopecia histopathology. And melatonin is, we can try melatonin. We cannot give guarantee, but sometime many authors suggested this, and with the melatonin implant, it has got a 50% success. And whenever there is a hair growth, we can discontinue the melatonin. Alopecia X is another important disease which is very commonly seen, particularly in our area. Pomeranians are very much affected. Even it can be seen in Chow Chow and Alaskan mutants and Samoyeds. So these breeds also can get affected. A variety of hormonal imbalance are suspected: elevated progesterone, low androgen, variable estrogen, mild increase in the cortisol, but nothing is going to help in all cases. Some will help, some will not help. So we cannot give the alopecia X name itself is telling that it is not a disease which can be identified. The cause cannot be identified. That is why the alopecia cause is not identified, means it is called alopecia X. So that is the thing. So here it is like a syndrome. It is having a combination of various factors that is being suspected. It is not confirmed. So because even in spite of supplementing all these things, it is not showing improvement. So the males are maybe predisposed, but also seen in females. Coat changes usually starts from 1 to 3 years, like in flank alopecia. Here also in young puppy, the owners, my own client, they got a puppy and they made it as a champion. But after attaining the championship in the shows, I developed this flank alopecia. Particularly, this alopecia will develop initially with the friction areas in the elbow and ventral brisket area. Then later it will go for truncal area. Truncal alopecia can happen. Even in the tail area, it can happen. And initially, it will be red in color, rose in color. That is, later it will go for black like this. So the dull, dry coat, loss of guard hairs, having a woolly appearance. You can see the woolly appearance of the thing. Puppy-like coat, hairs only at the head and extremities can be seen. Frictional areas, loose hair first, and alopecia areas become hyperpigmented in the later days. Hairs do not regrow after clipping. That is also there in this. But if you are going for a biopsy, skin biopsy, there will be a growth of hair. That is the classical sign in this particular disease. If you are going for a biopsy, in that biopsy site, there will be growth of hair. See, this is another person who brought to our college with the alopecia X from Delhi. They have been treated with so many doctors. It was not showing improvement. It has confirmed in our ward as an alopecia X, and the people are happy. And we told that it is not going to improve. And they should know that, because the veterinarian should tell the owner about the prognosis. It won't improve or it will improve. We can try like that. We have to tell. That is very, very important in recognition of the disease. So the management variable response are being done with the neutering. Some dog will improve with the neutering. Some will be with the melatonin. The melatonin is being widely used in throughout world. 3 mg per kg body weight BID for 3 months. Melatonin implants also tried, and sometimes they are going for microneedling, that is acupuncture, that is being tried and successfully in certain countries. And methyl testosterone, ketoconazole, all these things are not showing improvement in our area, and melatonin is being tried with very little improvement or no improvement in certain cases. And see, this black skin disease is a condition that causes hair loss in Pomeranian, which can easily occur from 1 year to 6 years wide range, and no known medical reason is there for it. And thyroid and Cushing test are normally negative, and loose fur mostly, and the saddle area, you can see the saddle area is being lost, hindquarters and tail, and whereas in the leaving the face and legs with the hair, and does not cause health issues. It is only a cosmetic disease. So the people mostly with the dress, they will dress it and bring the dog out. So there is no test. That is very, very important to know by vet. There is no single test is available to confirm the disease for black skin disease. Because of the skin is black, it is also called the black skin disease. There is no guarantee for any breeder for getting the young one with this disease. So it is better to advise the breeder not to breed this. In future, we can avoid this, so that the population can be, we can go for advising them for neutering it. And it seems to affect the males more often than females. There is no known 100% effective treatment or cure at this time. So that is very, very important. You have to remember. Then Telegon deflection. Telegon, it is mainly because of the stress. So we can very well, if the stress is going to be there for more 1 to 3 months, say for a very good example is postpartum shedding. See, whenever animal is going to be pregnant, or even if it is going to be delivering or milking, giving pups, milk, all these things will lead to shedding. So about 6 weeks post-whelping, you can expect, also seen in stress like drug or sometime in severe disease or in surgery, even anesthesia can lead to this kind of thing, stress. When new hairs start to grow, see a massive shedding of the old hair. So that is seen in this case, and diagnose with the history, rule out the other causes of alopecia, and we can very well see the telegon, more commonly telogen in the microscopy, in the trichography. We can very well see the improvement with the supplementation of the omega-3, omega-6 fatty acids. And anagen deflection is also very commonly seen. Sudden loss of hair within days or few with the systemic diseases, severe systemic diseases, or even the chemotherapy. So the chemotherapy is a very important thing. You might have seen a lot of even human patients or even in dogs, they will be going for loss of hair with alopecia. That is mainly with the anagen deflection. So we can very well see these cases. Even the toxic substance like arsenic or selenium, if it is going to have a more concentration, then also there is chance for getting this type of anagen deflection. Metabolic malnutrition, endocrine also can lead to this kind of thing. Results of interruption of the hair growth, diagnose with the history, rule out other causes of alopecia is very, very important. Then canine pattern baldness is one another important thing, where you can see the affected areas with the ear pinna and ventral neck and ventral chest, even around the thigh. You can see the perineal region, caudal thighs. You can see the affected breeds or Dachshunds very commonly we are seeing. And Chihuahua, Whippet, and Greyhound boxers, miniature pincher also very commonly affected. And diagnosis and rule out the other causes of symmetrical alopecia. And biopsy is the very important thing, where you can see the hair follicle or atrophy, or sometimes we may not be seeing more hair follicles. And residual hairs have smaller diameter. And melatonin can be tried, but we cannot give guarantee in these cases. And cutaneous cell tumor also can be seen in a generalized form. As we have discussed, we can go for isotretinoin, and also with the interferon that will give favorable results. So here the paraneoplastic alopecia also possible with any neoplasm which affects the metastasis in the lung or even liver. We can easily identify the with the ultrasound. We can see, and that also can create non-pruritic alopecia that can be easily identified with these gadgets. and also with the histopathology, we can confirm it. So to conclude that we can have congenital and acquired alopecia in canines. So this congenital can be very well appreciated in the early stage, that is in the immediately after birth. You can see the ectodermal defect, particularly in certain breeds, alopecic breeds, we can see. And whereas in case of acquired, we have to think about the auto-inflicted, that is self-mutilated wound, particularly in the hypersensitivity cases like allergic diseases. It may be a food allergy or a flea allergy, or it may be an environmental allergy, or it may be related to the chemical contact allergy, or it may be of parasites. So these things will have a pruritus also. Whereas infections, you can have Staphylococcus, Demodex, and dermatophytes, wherein you may have or may not have the pruritus. And inflammatory reaction also, you may or may not have the pruritus. And here the post-injection alopecia, which is a very common thing where in rabies vaccine, and dermatomyositis, alopecia areata, and sebaceous arenate, all these inflammatory conditions will not have pruritus in the practice. So here the endocrinopathy and all the endocrinopathies, follicular dysplasias, like color dilution alopecia, black hair follicular dysplasia, recurrent flank alopecia, alopecia X, all these things will not have pruritus, and also they won't respond for the treatment. And miscellaneous like telogen anagen deflection, they are very good. They will be having a very good response once you are going to withdraw the stress factor or withdraw the drug which is going to make the disease. That will have a very good result. And canine pattern alopecia will not have improvement with the treatment or anything. And neoplasty also will not have complete improvement. So it can have a temporary improvement which can postpone the life. So recently the Adam P. Patterson 2019, she has given they have given a practical approach to canine alopecia, wherein they are telling with the signalment and age of onset, we have to check the physical examination. We have to see whether it is symmetrical or asymmetrical. As I told you, we have to go for diagnostic with the cytology, skin scraping, DTM, trichogram, and biopsy. If it is going to be asymmetrical, we have to check for breed and endocrine screening test. If it is going to be asymmetrical, we have to think about the antibiotic trial. Because sometimes it will be a pyoderma in most common cases. And acquired canine alopecia can be seen as hair pulled out and hair fell out. If it is going to be hair pulled out, it is mostly of pruritic causes. If it is going to be hair fell out, it may be of inflammatory or non-inflammatory causes. So with that, we can easily identify and proceed the disease and come to a conclusion whether the animal is having the problem, and we can very well go for identifying the thing.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sir, first of all, I would like to congratulate you that a skin is the largest and biggest organ of the body, and you have developed such a diagnostic protocol and think that such may be the causes available for diseases of the skin, and these are the proper therapeutic management protocol we can implement. Really, sir, we are very fortunate by listening your lecture. I assure that listening your lecture will enrich our scientific knowledge to dealing with the clinical cases of skin disorder. Again, sir, there is appreciating comment in my chat box. All people who are joined or students who are joined for our webinar, they are telling that it is extremely informative session. Thank you. And such type of session should be organized by Indian Society for Veterinary Medicine for practitioners, students, and academicians, sir. Again, sir, today I would like to highlight one important thing. As far as Nagarajan sir's webinar is concerned, today senior life member of ISBM, they have joined, sir. In that, Dr. H.A. Upendra sir, he has joined, Dr. N.A. Tufani sir, Dr. Umesh Dimri sir, Dr. Vivek Kasralikar sir, Dr. D. Sumati, Dr. Nitin Bhatia, and as far as the young brigade of ISBM is concerned, sir, Dr. Gautam Bhojne sir, he has joined, Dr. Dheeraj Gupta, Executive Committee member of ISBM, Dr. Hemesh Ratre, Dr. Deepa Lakkar, he has also joined. She has also joined. Dr. Rajendra Kumar Bharadwaj, Dr. Tatyarao Rasad, and apart from this, our ISVM live members, sir, other clinical practitioner, they are also joined. Dr. Ravindra Nimse from Ahmednagar, he has also joined, sir. Dr. C. Lal Mantunga from Aizawl, he has also joined, sir. And Dr. Vinod Poddar from Pune, he is working in BIF. He is also appreciated our webinar and actively participated for today's webinar, sir. Sir, there is again a comment from participant that congratulations to the organizing team and excellent webinar. Looking forward to more such sessions, sir. In quickly, I will take some questions, sir.
Yeah, please.
Okay, sir. Almost 10 to 15 questions are there, sir. I will try to take.
Kindly stop your presentation. Kindly
Pardon, sir?
sharing your presentation, sir.
Thank you for everyone for opening my
Yes.
presentation. Thank you.
Yeah.
For the,
Dr. Nilesh, it is really very wonderful presentation. Almost more than 200 participants they are joined for presentation, sir.
Sir, sorry to interrupt, sir. The presentation is still being shown on the screen, and sir is not seeing. So, sir is requested to stop sharing so that sir can be seen. Sir
Okay.
visual is not seen.
Sir, just stop sharing of your presentation, sir, please.
oh, where to go for it? Sharing.
It's on upper side, sir.
To stop sharing, huh?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Oh, right. Okay.
Now you are visible.
Now it's okay, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your
Yeah.
support and
Yeah.
encouragement and good words from everybody. And
Thank
I
you.
hope you all enjoyed our alopecia webinar. And I am very happy to hear the questions. Please tell me the questions.
Yes, sir. Sir,
Yeah.
there is one question from Dr. Sona Bai. Sir, which ointment are preferred for Malaysia condition, sir?
Which?
Malaysia.
Malassezia.
Malaysia condition. Yeah.
Anesthesia.
Malassezia. Then, what? Can you repeat the question?
Which ointments are preferred for Malaysia condition, sir?
See, so far, if it is going to be a dog, it is very much the thing what we are using, ketoconazole shampoos. See, the more than the ointment, we use the shampoos and lotions, which can be used. That is the ketoconazole or itraconazole orally, parenterally, topically we can use. That is very much useful. Recent report says that terbinafine is not useful in dog. It's very much useful in case of this thing, cat. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay. Sir, Dr. Harish Kalara, he is willing to ask efficacy and side effect of ivermectin in non-porotic alopecia.
See, in alopecia, there is no point in giving ivermectin injection. See, here only if it is going to be a parasitic, that too, Demodex, we have to go for oral ivermectin if it is so. And you can very well, if it is going to be a very high-end dose, suppose if you are going to give in a normal dog which is tolerating, no problem. Suppose certain breeds will not tolerate even the normal dose, like 400 to 600 microgram. Normally, we will give 200 to 200 microgram for ticks, whereas in case of Demodex, we'll be going for 400 to 600 microgram. In case of spits, certain spits are very much prone for toxicity, even though they are within the normal range or in the therapeutic range. So here we have to start from the low dose, from 200. In a normal tick dose, we have to start slowly, we have to increase. If at all you are going to see any symptoms like ataxia or anything, immediately you have to stop it. And we have to think of lipid intravenous lipids going to have a toxic. Okay. If you are going to withdraw the thing, the revival of the symptom will be there. So sometime even the partial blindness will be there if it is going to be ivermectin toxicity. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Nilesh, there is one disturbance. Just request that gentleman to mute his microphone, please.
I have removed them.
Okay, please.
One more,
Sir,
Dr.
again
Please.
one question from Dr. Sanjay Kumar Mishra. He want to ask efficacy of atohemotherapy and milk of iodine in cases of non-porotic alopecia in dogs, and what will be its side effects, sir?
So autoimmune therapy, to my knowledge, we are not tried or we are not come across in any approved literatures. So I have no idea about it.
Okay. Again, sir, there is one question from Dr. Sona Bai again. How to approach the itching condition in newborn puppies? Suggest best suitable therapy. Newborn puppies are there, skin problem is there or itching problem is there. How we should approach?
See, first and foremost thing in newborn puppies is mainly because of the fleas, not fleas, lices. The lices you can very well appreciate in the top line. You might have seen most of the cases we are seeing in case of the persons who are coming, bringing and adopting from the street. The young puppies are being adopted nowadays. A lot of people are adopting puppies from the street. In the street dogs, there is no proper care, so there is more chance for getting lice infestation. Because of the lice infestation, it will have a terrible itching. So that lice infestation you can easily appreciate because they won't be visible by mere naked eye, by mere visible, by mere gross examination. You have to spread the hair, then only you can see the movement of the lice. So for that, to have a clue, you can very well appreciate the top line alopecia and the dorsal top line. You can see the allopatic patches. You can see with the spike-like eruptions of the hair, with the even sometime with the papular eruptions in those area. So in those area, if you're going to spread the hair, we can very well appreciate the movement of the lysis. So you can very well go for treating it with the acaricides. We can have a cure. So apart from that, if it is going to be a puppy, we have to think about the scabies. If it is going to be a non-stop itching, and even the owner is going to have, or mother is going to have, or if it is going to be purchased from a sandy, it can be picked up from the other dog. So we have to necessarily check whether it has got any chances of getting picking up the scabies from the other dog. So that is also very important to rule out pruritus in dermatology in puppies. Okay.
Sir, again,
Even the orthodontic mange. Orthodontic
Okay.
sometimes will be having more discharge in the ear. So we have to take a swab and see under microscope. Then sometime you'll be seeing, particularly in Shih Tzu breed, we have a lot of itching problem, wherein you'll be forgetting to take the ear swab and see under microscope. There you'll be having, particularly in puppy, you'll be having severe itching, particularly in the ear, they'll be telling. So if you're going to take a ear swab and see under microscope, you can very well appreciate the moving ear mites, orthodontis, cyanitis, we can very well appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there is again one question. Is there any existence of hepatocutaneous syndrome in dog?
Yeah, definitely we have. It is a uveo dermatological syndrome also there. The hepatocutaneous syndrome, we call it as TIN, toxic epidermal necrosis. You can very well see, particularly in case of, you can appreciate by seeing the peeling of the foot layer. So in the foot, you can see the layer of the skin will be peeled off, and you can very well appreciate the liver involvement. We can very well go for identifying by clinical examination, hyperkeratosis of the foot and other things. You can very well see that.
There is one question from Dr. Adil Bhatt. Can alopecia in dogs be associated with infectious diseases like brucellosis and ehrlichiosis? Is there any report regarding this?
So there is a chance to have the alopecia in any infectious disease because skin is the mirror of internal organ. Any infection can lead to loss of hair because of sometimes it is because of the irritation. It can happen in any organ. But these, unlike leishmania and other diseases, it is not so commonly seen. But there is possibility to have in these diseases also.
So there is one interesting comment that I would like to share. Wow, doc, so many conditions covered in such a short time. Feeling proud to be your ex-student. Best wish for ISBM team. Dr. Shyam, he has communicated this message, sir.
Because we had to cover all the non-pruritic alopecia. What are all the, because we'll be seeing a lot of alopecia cases in our routine practice, but we may not be appreciating it. So we have to necessarily check whether it is a focal, multifocal, or generalized. So that is very, very important step in diagnosing the cases. Thank you.
Sir, there is again one question from Dr. Karma. Sir, we have heard few reports of dog shown signs of seizures while treating demodicosis with Bracto. With what is your view in this? Some medicine they are given for demodicosis and seizures were reported. So they want to seek your opinion, sir.
Even there is a documentary evidence is there in any drug, even in ivermectin or even in case of fluorolaner, afoxolaner, isoxazoline, any group of isoxazoline, there is possibility to affect the nervous system also. But comparatively, when compared to ivermectin, it is less. And very rarely we are seeing. Generally, we have not come across this type of instances. But one of our vet has posted in WhatsApp group, and I thought that is also possible, because we have seen in even in literature also there is possibility to have very rarely the neurological involvement, particularly the ataxia and rarely epilepsy, and it will be transient. You can very well recover from that. So that is a very interesting.
Sir, thank you very much for your answering, sir. Some questions from my side as an audience, sir.
Okay.
Sir, I am also working on thyroid profile. We have standardized the thyroid profile in dogs and cats by means of radioimmunoassays, sir.
Okay.
Sir, just I wish to ask thyroid dysfunction and non-porotic skin infections are there. And second, sir, when we are considering skin disorders of the thyroid dysfunction, in that we are concentrating about the T4 level. Though T4 level they are below, but if subclinical hypothyroidism is there, what could be abnormality we can record as far as the skin abnormality is concerned, or as far as the skin affections are concerned, sir?
We have to necessarily go for seeing the TGAA autoantibodies, so thyroglobulin. So that is the one which will give a forecast about that this particular dog will be having the thyroid in future, like that. So, but unfortunately, we don't have the facility of. I don't know whether you are having that. Are you having the facility of taking TGAA?
No, sir, TGA not, but
So,
T3, T4, FT4, that three we are doing, sir.
So that it is canine specific, isn't it? So the
No,
canine.
sir, they are human kit, but we have carried out pathological and physiological validation of that kit, sir.
Okay, but here the very important thing is total T4, TSH and TGAA only. In that total T4 we can very well do with the human kit, and in case of TSH we have to go in for equilibrium method of identifying the TSH, and in case of TGAA we have to have a separate facility for it. All the universities in abroad they have this facility. Unfortunately, in India we don't have this facility. So we can very well even take the sample and send it across and get the report. It can be done. So if you go to online, we can see the thyroid TGJA. If you type, we can very well see a lot of private companies or even the universities are doing this. We can very well identify that. So that very main advantage is you can advise the breeder. So for the breeder, those who don't want to breed it, if it is going to have a thyroid problem, we can very well have this thyroid profile with the TGAA, total T4, T3, and TSH. You can have a clear idea. So because most of the time, only TGAA positive will be there, but it may not be giving positive result with the T4 if the animal is not having thyroid disease at that time. it may develop in future. So that we can identify because it is an immune mediated lymphocytic thyroiditis. We can very well identify with the auto antibodies, so that we can we have to come across. We have to see if it is going to be a breeding flock. We have to advise them to go for sending the sample for identifying it. If it is going to be positive, better not to breed. So that is the one we have to remember. Okay.
The last question I am taking, sir. It's from Dr. Monica Sharma. Any vitamin or mineral therapy that can help in curing alopecia?
Yeah, we have zinc dermatosis, zinc responsive dermatosis, and vitamin A responsive dermatosis, which will very much improve with the supplementation of vitamin A, and also with the zinc responsive dermatosis will be responding for zinc supplementation. Apart from that, this all the vitamin A derivative isotretinoin will be very much useful in all the supporting treatment for these diseases, alopecia, any alopecia condition. And vitamin A, suppose essential fatty acids, if it is going to be, as I told you, the stress factor is an important thing, particularly the parturition, post-parturition level. Stress factor, even in those conditions, a lot of essential fatty acids are being eliminated through milk to the young ones. At that time, all of a sudden, there is a need for more essential fatty acid for the dog. So once you are going to supplement the essential fatty acid for these dogs, which are under stress, that is the telegon deflection, we can very well go for reviving the symptoms. Thank you.
Sir, thank you very much, sir.
Thank
Sir,
you.
today our knowledge partner Zydus is also associated with us for this successful organization of the webinar. I do request Dr. Sujit Kumar, our team, one member team of Zydus, to brief about their product brochure. Please, I invite them.
Thank you, Dr. Galdar, and thank you very much, Nagarajan sir, for
Thank you,
very elaborative presentation.
Thank you, sir.
It was very pleasing to refresh our knowledge and also learn a lot of new thing in a precise time.
Thank you, sir.
So after your exhaustive lecture, I will just remind you of my product, which is actually related with the dermatology. These are the basic products which are available in India. So one of the old product, Spectrazole, many of you know, this contains miconazole, ofloxacin, and clobetasol. In between, there was some discontinuity. So these products we have got from the British time now with Zydus. So this Spectrazole in the form of lotion, it is available in the market. Then Pedum shampoo for all type of infectious dermatitis cases, combination of chlorhexidine and miconazole in the form of a spray and shampoo. Both it is available. So it can be used for the Malassezia dermatitis, as we were telling, or any type of infection during the treatment. For regular use, we have a herbal shampoo, which is Arnivax, Arnica-based herbal shampoo, which is totally herbal. It contains Arnica, Neem, Cantharis, aloe vera, amla, and Eva. On a regular basis, it can be used to keep the dog shiny, and also it acts as a conditioner. Then Fresia, we have antifungal dusting powder in the form of powder, which contains clotrimazole only, so mainly for all type of fungal infection in dermatology. Then related with the ear, we have this Otirel, which is a combination of clotrimazole, ofloxacin, betamethasone, and lignocaine. So very effective and economical ear drops for all type of ear infection. After proper cleaning of ear, this can be used to treat all type of otitis externa and other infection in the dogs. Then basic product again, cypermethrin based dog wash in the form of Ectofree we have, and then soft and silky soap we have. So that's all from my side. Not much time I will take here. So just to remind, Arnimex, Phantom, Spectrazole, Fascia, Otirel, Ectofree, Mysoft, and Sulfi. Thank you, Nagarajan sir. Thank you, ISBM team, for organizing this webinar, and thank you for giving the opportunity to present the Jairus product.
Thank you, Dr. Sujit. Thank you very much. Sir, we are at the last segment of today's webinar. I do request Dr. K.K. Mishra, Associate Professor, to propose vote of thanks, please. Dr. K.K. Mishra, please. Is there? Dr. Mishra, are you there?
He was there. I have seen him in panel.
Yeah, yes, he is there, sir. We'll wait for a couple of minutes. Sir, shall I take in time any questions, sir?
Yeah, please. With pleasure.
Yeah, he is giving opportunity to ask questions actually. Dr. Mishra.
Sir, one question from UG student, I think. How we should proceed to do the basic differentiation for diagnosis of skin infection as far as the parasitic, fungal and bacterial, sir?
Parasitic we can very well do with the skin scraping. Skin scraping is mainly for parasites. So we can very well do the parasite elimination by skin scraping, but you have to do it in 4 or 5 places. Then next one is fungal. See, the cytology is the very important thing. Tape impression cytology. That is a very important clue. We can very well see by means of Dipquick. We have a field A, field B stain in the market, which is very much useful. It is equivalent to that Dipquick. So Dipquick is very costly. Whereas for the field users, it is only some 800, within 1,000 rupees, it will come for 500 ml. So we can very well go for field A, field B stain, which is available in the market, human market. You can take that, you can go for dipping within a span of 1 minute. We can dip 10 times. First red stain, then blue stain. First fix it with the spirit, then that is ethanol, then with the red stain and the eosin, then with the blue stain. So the modified right stain has to be used like this, and then immediately you can see under the microscope spontaneously. You can just see under microscope, even for any blood parasites, you can see like this. So you can very well appreciate the bacteria, that is cocci or rods, or you can see the malassezia, you can see the cornified cells, you can see the acantholytic cells, you can see the neutrophils, see whether it has got cocci with neutrophils or it is having only simply neutrophils, as you are seeing in acantholytic cells with the neutrophils in case of pemphigus. Or you can very well appreciate a lot of neutrophils without any cocci in case of Papistrangile. So all these things you can see by way of simple practice. There is no huge equipment is required. You can just you should have a BP blade, you should have a liquid paraffin, or even coconut oil is quite, any mineral oil is enough, and a glass slide is enough, and you have to have a microscope with you, small ordinary microscope. We can do wonders in dermatology. So the dermatology, the skin scraping and cytology, tape impression, even we can go for dermatophyte test medium, that is DTM. That is going to give a very great information about the dermatomycosis. Even if you are going to have a Woods lamp, it will be of very much useful. Even you have to see the lesions in the under the light. So that is, the illumination is so important. Even nowadays we have got all iPhone and even the smartphone, any Android phone, you have the facility of seeing the enlargement. So you can use the lens in that. Even you have a lot of apps, download the app for enlarging the enlarged visibility. You can just see by way of seeing the cell. With the cell you can see the see the structure of the enlarged structure of the lesion and enlarged structure of the follicle, and you can see the parasite, even like what I had told you, no, the follicular cast which are attaching in the root of the hair in case of sebaceous adenitis, which is so classical, that can be easily appreciated with the iPhone itself. iPhone, or even with the help of any Android phone, you are going to enlarge and see with the illumination. You can very well appreciate it, and you can go for studying further. I think I answered your
Yes,
question.
sir. Sir, what are the questions you answered? They are really, it means very helpful for us, for our academic, clinical, and for student also. They are really very helpful, sir. Thank you very much for it means such a wonderful talk and answering the n number of questions that diverse. It means our student, academician, and clinical practitioner they have put in chat box of the webinar. I just checked, sir. Dr. KK Mishra, whether he had joined. Dr. Mishra? I think he had joined, sir. I request Dr. Mishra for vote of thanks. I think, sir, there is some network issue. Take this opportunity to make a vote of thanks. So first of all, I would like to thankful to Nagarajan sir for delivering such a wonderful webinar. Sir, really, behalf of Indian Society for Veterinary Medicine, I feel very glad and communicate that the webinar delivered by you is really wonderful and the questions answered by you are really knowledge imparting. I also thankful to the President of Indian Society for Veterinary Medicine, Dr. Ram Prabhu sir, Dr. Naurial sir, General Secretary of ISVM, Dr. Ram Prabhu sir, my colleague Dr. Nilesh, Dr. Shankar and Sujit Kumar for helping us to organize such a wonderful webinar on the forum of Indian Society for Veterinary Medicine, sir. Again, sir, I would like to request all our participants that every Saturday Indian Society for Veterinary Medicine is organizing webinar for our ISPM live member and ISPM members. Next week also on the same time on Saturday we are organizing webinar on drug delivery system. I do request all the participants to attend the same. Again, I am very much thankful to all the participants for attending the webinar and making this webinar as a great success. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Namaskar, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Nilesh, thank you very much. Thank you, Mishra ji. Thank you.